School Board to order. And Renee, would you note that we are all present except Katie Hutchinson? And I'd like to invite you to stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have some board salutes.
Good evening. Our first board salute is for our Allstate Cheer team. We would like to take a moment this evening to congratulate the Charlestown High School Sophia Adams and the New Washington High School's Pammy Minton for earning a spot on the 2019 Allstate Cheer team. Only 12 cheerleaders across the state are selected for this prestigious team. The board salutes Sophia and Pammy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Our next board salute is for the Charlestown High School Cross Country Girls Team. The board would like to salute the girls cross country team for winning the first ever Southwestern Hanover Sectional. The team is coached by Jerry Doyle, head coach, and Lauren Crow, assistant coach. Team members include Ashley White, Skylar Cochran, Tina Liepta, Daniel Roberts, Lainey Hawkins, Macy Rosen, Jackie McCoy, Jessie McCoy. Congratulations to the girls cross country team.
Congratulations to both the cheerleaders and the cross-country runners. I know it's the first time in how many years?
First ever.
And first ever sectional championship.
32 years for conference. They won, so.
And third in the regional, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Top three finish, that's great.
They worked
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Pam.
Our first item is approval of the agenda. Board, do you have a motion?
Move to approve the agenda presented by the superintendent.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Next up is approval of the minutes from the previous meetings. This includes executive session, regular, special, and public hearing meetings. Board, do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, discussion? Okay. All those who approve of the minutes from the previous meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We have no public comments on agenda items tonight, so we'll move to the consent agenda. Approval of the consent agenda. Board, do I have a motion?
Madam Vice President, I move that we can accept the consent agenda as submitted.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion or questions, comments? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Next up, we have gifts to buildings. Ms. Perkins?
Yes. Put those up there. Getting there.
How funny.
Our folks have been very generous to us this month. Our teachers and actually different organizations such as PTOs and REMC and Foundation of Southern Indiana, and it goes on and on and on, and it just shows that we have a very caring and community that cares about our schools and our students and our teachers, and we're blessed. And our total is $24,504.51 for 1 month. And I move that we accept these donations.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Do I have a second?
Second it.
All right, any discussion or comments?
I do want to say that I appreciate First Choice Deer Processing donating $50 to the archery club. Just thought I'd bring that out to your attention. I hope they're watching this. Good for them. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, good. I'm telling you. But I appreciate the $24,000. What an awesome thing.
Any more comments or questions? All those who will approve the gifts to buildings signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. All right, our action items tonight, we have our Neola policy updates first reading. April, help me.
Good morning, Board. Good evening. These
Good morning.
are updates to our current Neola policies. These updates are primarily changes in law, and I've attached those to this agenda item. I've shared these with Dr. Clayton and discussed these with our cabinet, including our directors, CFO, assistant superintendent, and supervisor of health services. I'll also share these with the corporation discussion with the GCCS at our next meeting. Because these are first readings, no action is necessary. As you read these, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll bring these back at our December board meeting, first meeting in December for final approval. No action needed, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Our next action item is the Indiana Literacy Early Intervention Grant Funds. Dr. Hartledge?
Yes, good evening, Board. We've actually had some fantastic training that's carrying over from last year's grant going on this week and the third week of November. It's very exciting for the opportunities that these grant monies bring about to the district and ultimately to our students. The Indiana Department of Education Literacy Early Intervention Grant provides funds to public schools in order to establish and continue scientifically based early literacy intervention programs for students in the primary grades. We've received $35,284.69 this year for 11 of our elementary schools. This does not include JJ because it has to be for the primary grades. The grant provides funding to purchase materials and to provide strategic professional development work to focus on core literacy instruction and intervention. And the focus of this grant is to support teachers in goal setting, progress monitoring, and specific instructional strategies to strengthen the literacy framework.
Okay, Board, can I have a motion?
Madam Vice President, I move that we accept the Indiana Literacy Early Intervention Grant in the amount of $35,284.69 from the DOE.
All right, may I have a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion or questions?
Is that distributed fairly evenly, or how is
It's
it?
based upon enrollment numbers.
I got you,
And then
okay.
they send out, and you have to submit that you're interested in participating, and then they wait to see how many.
And then they decide.
the number fluctuates depending upon who participates. And then we even get another allocation in January. I
Okay.
guess when people don't go ahead and follow through on it, so.
Well, thank you for following through.
We've had it for 7 years we've been doing it, and it really has helped to support our teachers and their work. So it's been fantastic.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you for all you do in this area. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the Indiana Literacy Early Intervention Grant Fund signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. And next, Dr. Hartledge, the acceptance of Title I delinquent funds.
Yes, Title I has several sections. Part D is to support programs for delinquent children. And Greater Clark County Schools has acted as the local education agency for these funds in the past. We have been allocated $26,756.18 for these programs. The Juvenile Detention Center agreement was approved at the September 17th board meeting. These funds offset the teacher's salary at JDC and required counseling services.
Thank you. Board, may you have a motion for the acceptance of Title I delinquent funds?
I move to accept the Title I funding agreement funds.
Okay. Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I have a couple of questions, and these aren't intended to be negative. I hope they don't take it away. These funds help, in addition to, if I understand correctly, the program at the juvenile detention that Ms. Fitzpatrick used to work at also, and still does, I think, some. Those also, we receive reimbursement from other area schools whenever they have students that are in that program too. Is that correct?
That is correct. Each district pays their particular amount. It's divided up every year. But this is specifically tied to our district as part of our Title I requirement. And it's a mandated piece. And we have to have the contract first and then before they approve it.
Okay.
And then I bring it to you.
So the mandate, the cost, our true overall cost for that is more than what this amount, this fund is for, but some of that is also offset because of other school corporations assisting in that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Would you say that, because is it mandated by the federal government or by the state government?
Federal.
Federal. And would you say that the amount that we're getting here offsets the total amount that would be mandated? In other words, are we also taking some funds out of our our education fund to cover any above and beyond this? And I realize you wouldn't be able to give you an exact number, that's not what I'm asking for, so.
I think it's pretty much, this covers our portion, but there could also be, depending upon, because it's based upon each district is charged based upon their number of students.
Okay.
We are not the keepers of that this year. We rotate that around amongst our districts. So it could be, if depending upon the salary of the teacher that we have employed, there could be a small fraction of educational funds that help to offset this, but this is the bulk of that expense.
The reason I ask is not to try to dispute anybody in our organization or the other organization. It's to make the public realize that we are under mandates from the federal government and from the state government that cost us money to operate. And it comes out of taxes, and whenever people come to us, or myself, or some of the other board members and say, you guys are just top heavy here, or you need to cut some expenses here or there, please realize that some of those expenses that we incur are because of mandates that are set by our legislatures that we have no control over, and that do not necessarily always have the funding to go along with those.
Well,
Would that be accurate?
that is true, and we have an obligation to educate, provide a free and appropriate public education to all of our students, even when they cannot attend our schools.
I understand, and that's what I want the public to understand that also, that we have obligations that we have to maintain. And that's one of the reasons why they may see costs going out that they don't think are accurate, or don't think are justifiable.
Thank you. Yes, and we are, that's where I used to teach, so for Greater Clark, but that facility is geographically located in Greater Clark's district. And so that would be true in a lot of places where you have a facility that's geographically located in a specific school system, so that school system provides the teacher, but then you've got funding and you've got other area school systems, you know, also using that facility that pitch in, for lack of a better word, but
Yes.
I have a question. The only time you can really see a great influx of calls would be when you have a large number of students at a given time.
Well, that is true, and our specific portion is pays for the teacher. So we have not, to my knowledge, we've had one teacher there for quite a long time. But as students come in, that's where the school districts help to support those costs.
Thank you.
okay. Any other questions or comments? All those who are in favor of the acceptance of Title I delinquent funds signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Next, Dr. Hartlage, Indiana NASP grant application for Bridgepoint Elementary School.
It's another archery program, Mr. Booker. The purpose of this grant is to support students by providing archery equipment to Bridgepoint Elementary School. This equipment must be used to teach archery as a component of physical education or another class during the school day for a minimum of 10 days per school year for a minimum of 5 years. And the equipment packages includes all of the equipment, right-handed bows, left-handed bows, arrows, carrying bags, repair kits, you name it, quivers, it includes it. The total cost of this package is $3,259. The National Wild Turkey Grant Program, as in the bird, covers $500 of the total cost. With the Indiana grant agreement, the school is responsible for $500 of this cost. Many of our schools look to fundraising opportunities or gifts that we've so graciously received, or their PTO will help offset this. We are requesting permission to submit an application for this grant to the Indiana National Archery in the Schools program for consideration to support this at Bridgepoint in the amount of $2,259.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a motion?
Madam Vice President, I move that we approve the grant application for submission.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I'm glad you clarified it's for the distillery that we're receiving them for our next.
Like we believe that.
I'm a member of that federation, actually, not the Wild Turkey.
Like
Well,
Actually, the Wild Turkey, the hunting association, so I
I
know
bet you
that-
get reward points, don't you?
Yeah.
I'd like to say that I think this is it's an excellent program. I have grandkids and I see them all too often sitting in front of a computer, which I'm doing right now, and not being out and being active. And this does get our students involved in activities, and an activity that many of them will carry on outside the classes that they're doing.
This is our 4th school now, so it is growing
Yes.
across the district.
Growing our system. It's
We're
great.
excited about that.
Appreciate you guys working on it for us.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor of applying for the Indiana NASP grant for Bridgepoint Elementary School signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. And next we have Project Lead the Way launch grant for Franklin Square Elementary School.
Yes, board, we've been very busy preparing for programming and obviously our facility for the new school. This is an opportunity to embed Project Lead the Way, a STEM focus, with their 28 interdisciplinary modules that will bring learning to life in our new school. The program empowers students to adopt a design thinking mindset through compelling activities, projects, and problems that build upon each other and relate to the world around them. And as students engage in hands-on activities in computer science, engineering, biomedical science, they become creative, collaborative problem solvers ready to take on a challenge. The Project Lead the Way launch grant covers the annual fee of $750 for 1 year. The teacher must attend a 2-day training course, and the grant also covers the expense for that training. So Greater Clark County Schools would like to apply for the grant to pilot this program at Franklin Square during the 2021 school year, with the hopes that we could expand the program into other elementary schools in future years.
Thank you. Board, do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we apply for the Project Lead the Way, a launch grant for Franklin Square Elementary School.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I understand that there are some schools, not our schools, but other schools, where all the teachers are trained in this in an elementary school, and wouldn't that be exciting?
And that is our hope. This is just the seed to begin that. We also plan to pursue a STEM grant through this state that's available that will also add another layer onto this, which you'll hear about more in the future, but that is certainly the direction that we want to go. We want a balance between STEM and outdoor activities,
Sure.
but this is certainly a great opportunity for our kids.
Thank you.
And so the teachers are getting trained in this too. That comes not out of this grant, but
It does. They will pay for,
substantial.
they have to do a 2-day course.
Right, oh,
And
okay.
so that will train one person, and then we hope to kind of do a train-the-trainer and
I see.
grow this.
I see, okay.
And then we'll pick, there are 28 different kits available, but obviously you can't, we'll have to make some
Yeah,
decisions
they're-
and decide what area of focus we want to
Sure.
start with.
Sure. I've seen this in multiple elementary schools. It's a good deal. It's really,
Mr. Loeffner has talked with some principals and superintendents that have it
yeah, it's,
and have had some really good reports.
and it was the last of the evolution of Project Lead the Way. They started in the high schools and made middle school. Now so I think the segue would be great. Moving back to the way, kids will have foundational PLTW, so.
It's a great match to go with our Vex robotics.
Right.
And really to get those, you know.
Right, get them started early in that robotics, and maybe those robotics team, as that's a huge thing in the state now. So that would be great. But anyway.
And we've got some good feedback. I talked to the superintendent up in Akron, Ohio, that they currently have this Project Lead the Way program wall to wall throughout a couple of elementaries, and they have a lot of good things to say about it.
Those have to be exciting schools.
Yes, yeah. And the modules are well done, the curriculum is well done, and it's been really good for the students. And what she told me is it's attracted students to that elementary school also. So.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of Project Lead the Way grant, launch grant for Franklin Square Elementary School signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Next is the contract with the Motes Group for the JHS baseball field renovations.
Yes, Ms. Fitzpatrick, Ms. Perkins, and Mr. Hawkins, we were fortunate enough to meet with the Motes Group, Chris Harpson from Motes a couple weeks ago, and learned everything you could imagine about turf over that 3 or 4 hours, I think. As you know, the John Schnatter Foundation donated $500,000 to the corporation, or to Jeffersonville High School, to renovate the baseball field there, most specifically to turf the infield. So I'm making the recommendation that we approve the contract with the Motes Group so they can get started with that work.
Board, do you have a motion to approve this contract?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the contract with the Motes Group for the Jeff High School baseball field renovations.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I just have a comment. I wanted to thank April for including the board policy that I had questions about in the summary. That helped me and not have to like call you or email you with more questions. So thank you. I appreciate it.
I'd like to, I'm going to suck up all the time here, I guess, but I'd like to point out to the public, because we did have some feedback from several people in the public, or at least I did, questioning specifically the process of going straight to one vendor. I was able to explain that to them. In addition, it's been committed to us that there will be no change orders on this unless there are extenuating circumstances that we find whenever we start opening the ground up to install the product. There's no anticipated issues with that. We also are I am of the understanding that any additional work that needs to be done would be done under the expense of some other organizations and not necessarily our Greater Clark County Schools. Depends again on what those situations are. So we did look at this. Mr. Lochner's correct. We spent a considerable amount of time going through this, and there were a considerable number of emails that went back and forth. Ms. Gelmaker also worked diligently on this as well. I'd like the public to understand that we are not a rubber stamp board. We don't just stand up here as bobbleheads and, oh, okay. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that the public doesn't necessarily see.
Any other questions or comments?
I'd like to thank Chad Shea for being a project manager. Take it on the chin. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the contract with the Motes Group for the JHS baseball field renovations signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Our next item is authorization to bid buses using the state bid process.
Good evening, Board.
Good
evening.
The Greater Clark County Schools is interested in using the state bid process for purchasing buses for delivery 2020. We have the choice of selecting the manufacturer, and then we can build a bus based on the qualifications that we want in a bus. We're going to come back at the future date to get board approval on the buses selected and the cost per bus. And part of that money, as a reminder, is coming from the IDEM grant funds that we received. The other part obviously will come out of our operations fund and part of our school bus replacement plan. This is something that's been at our disposal ever since service centers were implemented in the state. Each service center was granted certain privileges, and the Central Indiana Educational Service Center is tasked with the state bus bidding process. So, in every district I've been a part of, we use that. I think we've used that here in the past as well. So this is nothing new. There's no changes, but it certainly affords us a few things. It affords us a streamlined process that is according to state statute, and also affords us the opportunity to build buses the way that we want, and then see open bid pricing for those that are part of that.
Group price.
Thank you. Board, do I have a motion to authorize the bid buses using the state bid process?
Madam Vice President, I move that we approve authorization to bid the buses using the state bid process.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Thank you.
No voice.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the authorization to bid buses using the state bid process signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, our next item is tax anticipation warrant 2020 advertisement. Dr. Dockel?
Yes, good evening, Board. This is the time of the year that I come before you and ask you to allow us to borrow some money so that we can operate next year, because we don't get our tax money until June and December, so we automatically have to go ahead and borrow those funds to operate. So in the education fund, we're looking at $5 million, in the operation fund, $5.2 million. This money will be borrowed through what is called tax anticipation warrants, which are temporary loans to be repaid by December 31st of 2020. We will take bids for these loans. Mr. Peterson, our attorney, school attorney and bond attorney, has given us the outline. So November 6th, we adopt the warrant resolution. November 13th and 20th, it'll be advertised, and then we'll send it to local depositories. December 12th, we'll receive the bids. December 17th, the school board awards the warrants and signs closing papers. excuse me, and then on January 2nd, we'll get the money. So we're asking permission to go ahead and approve the advertisement of the notice of sale for the tax anticipation loans.
Thank you, Dr. Stackle. Board, may I have a motion to advertise for tax anticipation?
Madam Vice President, I recommend that we approve the advertisement of the notice of sale of tax anticipation warrant. I think that's presented.
Do I have a second?
I say.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I have a comment. I hope we don't see headlines from this particular, because this happens
Every year.
regularly.
Go back
Probably,
historically, the first
probably-
one in November.
I don't know what percentage of the school corporations in Indiana does it, but I would say it's pretty high. I like to look at it as, it's kind of a bridge loan. It's simply because our bills are due and our stuff is due before we get our taxes. And that's not our fault, so. And I think the only ones that have ever, no, I say this every year, but I think our charter schools were forgiven one year.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, they ever forgive ours?
$90-some million. if I
Did they ever forgive ours?
No.
No. Okay. I'm done.
I'd like to piggyback off of what Ms. Perkins stated. The last time this happened, we had one of our local news, I'm going to be a little bit more blunt, one of our local news media that put out a false statement. I would call it fake news, saying that we were out of money and that we had to borrow money to be able to operate. Technically, that was correct, but it was an absolute misrepresentation of the truth. And I'd like the public to remember that, because there's a fairly good chance that come the time to approve this, you're going to see the news cameras sitting right over there again, because it makes for nice news, and it sells some newspaper and TV time. But it's not true.
You're right, you weren't as nice as me.
I don't feel like being nice.
That was pretty good for Bill.
Yeah, that was nice for Bill.
Dandy.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. All those in favor of advertising for the tax anticipation warrant for 2020, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Next, we have a resolution to transfer money from the education fund. Dr. Dackel?
Yes, as you well know, all the money that we get now comes into the education fund, and there's certain expenditures that are charged to the operations fund that the education fund is supposed to pay for. So every so many months I come before you and I ask for a transfer. Anytime I transfer money in or out of the education fund, I have to get your approval with a board resolution. So I'm asking for $1 million transfer. It's been several months since I've done one, so we'll probably do another one in December too. So just forewarning. So we're asking permission to go ahead and transfer $1 million out of the education fund to the operations fund.
Okay. Board, may I have a motion for the transfer of money?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the resolution to transfer money from the educational fund.
Do I have a second?
I say.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments?
I have a question. Tom, you mentioned December now. That's when everything has to be balanced, correct? When you come back?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, we have, we can go into January to balance December and everything like that, because we're also closed the last 2 weeks of December.
Okay.
So,
So you'll be back?
yeah,
Okay, thank you.
it might be in January, but it'll say December. So,
Okay.
Tom, could you possibly just shoot us out an email with a summary of what exactly is being covered with the transfer? Thank you.
yes.
And Dr. Dackel, doesn't this have to do with the fact that the funds were changed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because they took certain account numbers out of
Right.
the old general fund, now the education fund, which would be like everybody in the central office, the custodians, people like that are now part of the operation fund.
Okay. Thank you.
But I'll get you this.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the resolution to transfer money from the education fund signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Next is the award of the architect engineer request for proposals, RFPs.
Yes. At the October 1st, 2019 board meeting, permission was granted to advertise for architect engineers for year one of our facility plan. The request for proposals was prepared and advertised on October 9th and October 16th, with proposals due on October 28th at 10 a.m. Attached, you see the bid tabulations for each project. We are asking permission to award the projects as follows. Michael Allen Ritz, he will get the CH bleachers, press box scoreboard, and alternate for field lights at $22,000 was his low bid. JHS bleachers, press box scoreboard, and alternate for field lights, $30,000. CHS track for $4,500. JHS track for $4,500 for a total of $61,000. TEG Engineering, CMS swimming pool for $98,810. Covert Hawkins CHS tennis courts for $57,000. The following projects were rejected: Jonathan Jennings HVAC, Thomas Jefferson HVAC, CHS field turf, and JHS field turf. So the superintendent recommends approval to award the projects to the listed architects as I described.
Board, can I have a motion to award these proposals?
Madam Vice President, I move that we award the architect engineer request for proposals as stipulated in the presentation.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I do have a question. Just wondering, Tom, I was going through the bids. Do you have any ideas why they were not even close? Like, for example, the swimming pool, we're giving the architect who bid lowest at $98,000. I think the next bid was like, and I'm going off memory, not good, $136,000 and then $209,000. Why so much discrepancy?
That we don't know. I mean, we haven't talked to the architect to find out. One of the things, we just said we need to redo the swimming pool at Charlestown Middle School. So it's up to them to come and design it. So we were just asking, what's the price to design a swimming pool? Tear out, do whatever you have to do to get it back to a working swimming pool. Because I had some architects say, well, what's the scope of work? I said, that's what you're going to develop. We're just looking to hire you now to develop the scope of work based on that. So I really don't know. I mean, I was surprised too at the swing on the prices. It amazed me.
Can I speak to that? It has to do, if you look at the, which is included in, if anybody wants to see it, the breakdown is included in the presentation if they want to look it up. Any of the people watching online. Covert Hawkins knows exactly what's involved with the flow. Knows more than anybody else what's involved with the swimming pool. For instance, the CMS swimming pool, because they did that facility study in 2014.
You mean Ted?
What?
You mean Stokenows?
No.
They got the bid.
Yeah, Stokenows low.
Right.
But Stokenow doesn't know as much about the building as Covert Hawkins does. So therefore, Covert Hawkins knows we've got to allow for this, this, and this. And TEG may not understand that as well as Covert Hawkins does. Or Covert Hawkins may feel that they need to spend more time on certain things that TEG feels that they can accomplish in a faster manner.
And
That's exactly why all bids vary.
And Covert Hawkins also did the Salem pool, so I think, they're kind of similar, and I think they probably knew what the problems were at the Salem pool, were probably the same ones, because they came out and looked at the pool.
So are we making a mistake by approving Stokenows engineering?
No, because we're gonna sit down with them, and we're gonna sit down and tell them what the scope of work's gonna be.
So is this 98,000 going to change?
Nope. See, in the past, what architects would do is they would, we would give them a budget, which we gave them a budget, so they knew how much money we had, and it would be based on a percentage. Well, then the law changed a number of years ago, they're not supposed to do a percentage basis, because if it's a small project, it's gonna be a higher percentage. in the past. It'd be like 10% of the budget would be their salary, their cost. And if it's a big project, like a $10 million one, it might be only 5.5%, something like that. They're gonna get their money one way or the other, but no, we're holding their feet to the fire, and I just wanted to see what the cost would be to design a swimming pool, tear out, put a new swimming pool in. So there will not be any increase.
So this doesn't include any construction or tear out or anything, it's just gonna be,
Just for the architect to design.
Design work.
I know.
Well, just of note, you know, the two of them we rejected, the field turf at both high schools. The bids on those, if you know, they wanted almost $80,000 just
Right.
to do the design work. And I think that's where you get the value of using the Wilson bid with the Motes group, because you know, that's $80,000 you don't have to spend with them already knowing,
Right.
you know, having the engineers
Right.
and the design team in place.
And then for the two HVAC projects, they were not just strictly HVAC, there were other things, you know, like carpeting or tile, radios, several other things that we had in there. Talking with Tom Gibbons, our facility director, he thinks that we go ahead and get some equipment that we can go ahead and purchase, and our guys can install it, and it'll be definitely under the $150,000 bid law. So why spend $16,000 for each school for an architect to design it when it's such a small project? We can handle that in-house, so we're gonna just take that in-house.
Let me make sure I understand what you said earlier. You give the architect firm a amount of money that is available.
That's in the bond, yes.
So why do we do that?
So they know the size of the scope of work.
Well,
They need something to go by as far as what the project's gonna be.
so if we have an existing pool, when they go out and do measurements to know the size, the scope of the
Some
project?
Some do, some don't.
Well, but for taxpayers' purpose, for coming out of my wallet, I mean, we have people come to the house want to put windows and tell me I can save 25%, and when I ask them 25% of what, they can't even answer that question. So I think that we're giving them an amount of money versus you go do the work and then tell us what it's gonna be.
Well, this is the maximum that we have for that project, so they're gonna have to design the scope of work to fall within that budget.
I understand that, but what I'm saying here is that if they go out and do the measurements and look at it and say it's $200,000 what they're gonna charge us to do that, then they're not in the ballgame. So we're tipping our hat to say, well, we got $100,000, so bring us some. That's what you're saying, correct?
Well, actually, we told them we had 2 million, I believe.
2 million.
2.1.
2
2 million, 2 point, whatever it was.
I mean, I'm not trying to make a big issue, but I don't think, you know, I think if a company is interested in doing some work, they need to go out and look at the facility.
I understand what you're saying.
But see, you have to give them a ballpark. I mean, even like when we bid the Franklin Square, we told the contractors they had 11.5 million to deal with. They had to build a building for 11.5 million or less.
But that included the architect and the builder.
Correct.
So
This is.
this is just the architect that we're paying this money for. I'm having a hard time.
Well, I'm gonna go with Chad. Chad, you don't tell them how much money you have for a bus. You tell them, you give them the specs, and they give you a price. Now, you got 3 companies bidding, and you're gonna take the best possible or the lowest bid. All those bids aren't always the good bid, the best bid. So I guess my concern is that if we're gonna tell them, then why don't you just say, here's a contract and you go design it?
Can I interject something?
Sure can.
The difference is, when you're talking about the bus, or we're talking about Franklin Elementary School, we actually have a product that we can walk into, look around, get in, start up, drive down the road with, or whatever. What we're asking for now is intellectual property. we're asking these gentlemen or these firms to develop and use their resources to develop a plan and develop the documentation that it takes for us to build an actual pipe.
I understand that.
So therefore, it would be similar to, as an educator, it'd be similar to somebody coming to you and say, I want you to tell me what it's gonna cost to write a book. And you're gonna write, they want you to write a book on how to coach basketball. And you're gonna say, well, what do you want me to do about coaching? I don't care. This is just it. You gotta write me a book that tells me how to coach basketball. And then they're gonna go to Mr. Loeffner and tell him the same thing. Now, he may feel that he needs to put a whole lot more in that book than you may feel that you need to put into that book.
But we have the option, I don't mean to cut you off.
Sure.
We have the option to take out those things that would be more costly.
You don't, but in the situation, in the scenario I just laid out, I've asked both of you to write a book telling us how to coach basketball. And that's all I've given you. And you can spend 6 months writing that book, and Mr. Loeffner can spend 2 weeks writing it out. He'll dash out a 50-page book, and you're gonna write, 4 volumes of an encyclopedia. And therefore, you can see the reason why these bids vary so much.
Are you gonna supply me with another book so I'll know what the book is and the size is
No,
gonna be?
I haven't. That's where we get into, and that's what Mr. Dykle pointed out. We can show them what it is.
Do you feel good about that?
I know it's open all, and I think they can do the work.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm saying, I'm questioning giving people an amount to work with.
I don't have a problem with the budget, giving them the budget for the building, for the job that has to be done. I don't have a problem with that. I have a much larger problem that Mr. Loeffner and I and some of the board members have gone over, and I think if you read your emails, I didn't know if you looked at them. I did not know if you looked at them or not, that's all. It was busy, I didn't get it out till today. I'm gonna go ahead and say it here, I see that I think we need to have a comprehensive vision of what we want to do, and we need to work from that as opposed to handing off one project to design and another project to design and another project to design. Because, now we're having to do it this time because we've got things we have to get done. But just going through and handing it out like that creates, in my opinion, a bit of a problem because we're not giving the design teams everything they need to be able to go through. I think we need to come up with something similar to the 2014 facilities report that we did, but I think it needs to be much more comprehensive. And that's what I'm proposing to the administration, that we consider doing in the future so that we can present to these design teams, this is what we've got right now. This is our condition. We've got a 1949 bus out there that's got bad kingpins and the tires are bald on it, and we want to know what it's going to cost for you to tell us what it takes to fix it.
Well, you sort of skirted around my initial question, and the fact that telling me to write a book, it might be 5 pages, okay?
Right.
Because I'm lazy. But then if I want to really show my knowledge, or knowledge that I think I have, it could be like an encyclopedia, or a series.
Correct.
Okay, but I'm gonna stand on your expertise in this area. But I'm just saying, my whole question was not about, it was about tipping someone how much money you have versus go look at it. I can design a pool.
You're acting like the car salesman. What do you have to
Well,
spend?
This is the standard.
We're on.
I know it's
The entire construction industry and educational industry. I go to IU and I look at what they're building in Bloomington. Whenever they're building stuff, they go to the engineering firms and architecture firms and they say, this is our budget. We've got a 200,000 square foot building and we're gonna spend $42 million on it. What's your design fee gonna be?
I understand that concept. I'm just saying that, excuse me, I'm just saying that when you tell people that you have X number of dollars, they're gonna try to get to the max. And if they go out and really want the work, they're gonna come up with things that are reasonable. So if you say you got 11 million, Well, I can build a whole school for 11 million, but I'm gonna give you some cheap stuff in that building. And someone else may be saying, here's some alternatives. In other words, they don't alert you to that. They can say, okay, it's gonna be 9 million, but now you're not getting the quality of the 11 million. So that's what I'm looking at. I don't believe in tipping your hat on. Go look at it and then come back with a design. That's what they're supposed to do, aren't they?
No,
No?
they have to have something to be able to start from, though.
Well, Mr. Clayton,
Go ahead.
I think one of the things we're going to do at the next meeting is present to you maybe another option, versus using the traditional bid process, using, Mr. Hawkins sat through a meeting there last week,
I don't have any problem with the process that's taking place. My only question, and I know Bill got on something else, only question is that why do we tell someone we have $1 million to do something when we just say, hey, bring us some plans?
They have to see the scope of the work before they give you a price. If we go out there and say, okay, we need architects for Charlestown Middle School pool, what's your price? They're gonna say, well, what do you have to do? How much money do you have? That's one of the things they're gonna ask is what's your budget? Because based on your budget is gonna depend on how many hours they're gonna be putting into that project.
I could understand that if I'm putting in a regular pool or a Olympic size pool. I could understand that if we didn't have a pool. But we have a pool there.
And it's ripping out the existing pool.
I understand.
Because of the prices are so bad.
Right. Well, that's more expensive when you do demolition.
Right. Y'all answered my question, but I'm not satisfied with it, okay?
Well, the next meeting, we're actually gonna have a group come in and present the whole concept of a construction manager, contractor at risk.
Yeah, and I don't have any problem
Yeah,
with that.
type, where you sit down with that group and really design.
That's where the RFQ thing came in.
It's more like an RFQ and you're
We
picking
need
a
to talk
company.
about that a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah,
I'm not necessarily a fan of it.
yeah. But they, it's something that some districts are using across the state. And
Why would you not be a fan of that?
Yeah, we're not there.
Move the question.
Let's get into that one.
Move the question,
Next
please.
time.
My mom called and says it's time for me to get homework, so.
I hate to ask this, but any other comments or questions?
Move to call the question means we take a vote.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't.
That's my job, that's okay.
No
I'm
problem.
here to help.
I don't have any problem.
Okay. All those in favor of the award of architect engineer request for proposals signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay.
One more.
Oh, okay. Next is clinical affiliation agreement between the Campbellsville University School of Nursing and Greater Clark County Schools.
Yes. The Greater Clark County Schools Health Services will provide opportunities for nursing students to become familiar with the role of a school nurse, as well as participate in selected aspects of a nurse's role. The clinical experiences in which nursing students will participate shall be mutually agreed upon by the Greater Clark County Schools Health Services staff and Campbellsville University faculty representative based upon the nursing student's level of skill and knowledge. This agreement is for one undergraduate student to participate in the clinical practicum hours with the school nurse at Jeffersonville High School during the fall semester of 2019. The agreement has been reviewed by Mrs. Geltmaker and is attached for your consideration. So the superintendent recommends the approval of the clinical affiliation agreement between Campbellsville University School of Nursing and Greater Clark County Schools to provide the facilities for educational experiences for undergraduate students enrolled in the nursing program. Now, I didn't write all this.
Thank you. Board, can I have a motion to approve the clinical affiliation between Campbellsville and Greater Clark?
Madam Vice President, I make a move that we approve the agreement, the affiliation agreement.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. Any questions or comments?
So do you know, is it a paid practicum for the undergraduate student?
I'm not sure. Teresa is out.
I know. I just thought I'd maybe see if you knew the answer. Thank you.
I would think not. but-
They're getting credit. Yeah, one or the other.
Well, some practicums are paid,
Yeah.
so, oh, yeah,
I never had,
yeah,
never had a practice.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of approving the clinical affiliation agreement between the Campbellsville University School of Nursing and Greater Clark County Schools signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the Memorandum of Understanding for Dual Credit with Ivy Tech in Columbus.
Yes, Board, I'm asking the board to approve the MOU with Ivy Tech Community College Columbus and New Washington Middle High School. This MOU will allow our ag students at the Washington Middle High School to get college credit through Ivy Tech Columbus. There's no cost to the student, and just asking the board to approve this MOU.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the memorandum of understanding for dual credit with Ivy Tech Columbus.
Second. Three of us.
That's awesome.
Any questions or comments?
I just have one question. Now, why Columbus? Is it just because of that program?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a program specific to the Columbus Ivy Tech.
Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor of approving the memorandum of understanding for dual credit with Ivy Tech Columbus signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the last action item is approval of the graduation dates for 2020, 2021 on the
This
school
is,
calendar.
yes, Board, this is next year's graduation date, not this year's. I'm asking the board to approve the graduation dates for Friday, June 4th, 2021, New Washington High School at 7 p.m., Saturday, June 5th, 2021, Jeffersonville High School at 10 a.m., and Saturday, June 5th, 2021, Charlestown High School at 1 p.m. I'm asking the board to approve those dates for next year, 2021.
Board, do I have a motion?
I recommend approval of the 2021 graduation dates and times.
Thank you. A
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I'm just gonna say you totally screwed me up with this, because we just voted on 2020 calendar dates, and I was like, Groundhog Day?
In cabinet, we thought the same thing.
Okay. I had to
You weren't alone.
I had to look at that like 3 times. I even checked my calendar. I was like, those dates aren't right, because I was looking at 2020. But okay.
Well, we feel good about going ahead and moving on this now because of the calendar we've built with the e-learning days. And, you know, our goal is to not add days on after Memorial Day, you know, next year, you know, and make sure we finish school before Memorial Day.
And it's still giving our teachers enough time to get all their grades,
Yes.
input, and not, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of approving the 2021 graduation dates signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? There are no public comments on non-agenda items. So any reports, requests, board comments?
I had as your representative on the Jeffersonville Redevelopment Commission, we had a meeting on Wednesday. I'm your representative, but I don't get to vote. But I do get to talk and ask questions, so that is what I did. I asked them to give me a report of the number of students who actually participated in Just Promise this year. And told them that I'd like to have that number so that we can build upon it and help them build upon it. And I'm supposed to be getting that soon, and I'll share it with you guys. And they didn't give me any more money, but I'm here.
Keep asking.
Oh, don't worry.
Mr. Hoffman?
No. I'd just like to state that our school system is not, we're not about to flounder and go under as a sinking ship. I know that some people might think that from sometimes the way I say things or what I talk about. That is not the case. I do think we have some issues that we have to deal with. I think the public hope the public understands that, and I hope the public understands that no matter what we do as a school corporation to meet the standards and meet the requirements and meet the legal and moral obligation we have to train the parents, or train the students of the parents in our area, we have to spend money. And that money has to come from someplace. Hopefully we get a majority of it from the state and from the federal government. But sometimes we do have to come to the community and ask for help. And that is not something that that's something that I see that is not out of the question at some point in the future. I don't know when, but I do see it coming. We have an aging infrastructure that we have not been able to put as much into as I would have liked to see us put into it. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Buckwalter?
Nothing, please.
Not bad.
Okay. So we're all looking for someplace, right? Okay. Mr. Walker?
Just want to remind everyone, this Friday night at Charlestown High School, we have the Harlem Wizards event. It starts at 7 o'clock, and the Education Foundation is putting that on. Should be a great event. I'm suiting up. I'm going to try to make it up and down the court a few times. And I believe you're officiating, aren't you?
Yes, we're
You're-
going to have
don't
really
tee me
short
up.
quarters.
Don't throw a technical on me. Huh? So, it should be a good event for the community. Should be a lot
It's
of fun.
free and open to the public.
Looking forward to it.
Renee?
We have cheerleaders too.
Tom, are you suiting up? I'm with you.
I understand we have cheerleaders too.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Great.
I know
Dr. Hartley
Principal
does.
Morris is a cheerleader.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
I
that'll
believe
be fun.
Dr. Hartley.
Dr. Hartley, do you?
I am. Oh, you'll be our coach?
No, I've done that, and you remember that. Remember those uniforms I made you wear?
We're not wearing those.
I think we're having a pep band there too.
Yes.
We are. Yes, we're having a pet band. Are you in the pet band?
I played that a long time.
All right, board, can I have a motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.